have you ever felt like your own mind, the very thing that makes you sharp, that makes you insightful, is also the thing that kind of keeps you at a distance from other people? It's a really common experience, believe it or not, but it's one we just don't talk about much. So today, we're going to dive into the psychology behind why a brilliant mind can sometimes feel, well, surprisingly isolating.
So let me just ask you straight up, have you ever felt like your intelligence is actually a social barrier? If you've ever been in a social situation and just felt totally misunderstood, or even a little lonely, you are so not alone. And psychology has a pretty fascinating explanation for it.
Now, the most important thing to get here is that this isn't some personal flaw. Not at all. A great way to think about it is that your mind has a different operating system. It just processes the world with a kind of depth and speed that can, totally unintentionally, create distance. It builds walls where you'd much rather be building bridges. And this all leads to what we can call the intelligence paradox. It's this wild idea that your biggest cognitive strengths can, believe it or not, create social hurdles. It doesn't mean you're better than anyone else, not at all. It just means you see the world through a different lens. And sometimes that lens can be a little intimidating to other people.
So how does this actually play out in real life? Well, we're going to break down 5 unseen social barriers. These are the specific psychological reasons you might be feeling disconnected. And just remember, these are not personal failings, okay? They're really common, totally unintentional side effects of having a highly active mind.
All right, let's just get right into it. We're going to unpack 5 key psychological barriers that can create this feeling of being disconnected from everyone. First up, we've got the small talk barrier. Look, for a lot of people, that casual chit-chat about the weather or what you did last weekend, that's the bedrock of social connection. But if you're highly intelligent, you might just find yourself avoiding it. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're starving for something a little more substantial.
So what's the deal with that? Well, it all boils down to a deep, deep need for mental stimulation. You want conversations to have some meaning, some depth. And that preference, while totally natural for you, can accidentally make people who are comfortable with casual talk feel a little awkward or even intimidated, like they can't quite keep up.
The second barrier kind of builds right on top of that one. It's asking the unanswerable question. Your curiosity is the engine of your intelligence, right? It's what drives you to ask why and to dig so much deeper than most people are ready to go, way past the simple slogans or the obvious answers. But here's where the social friction comes in. That natural curiosity can actually make other people feel nervous. Why? Because when they can't fire back a quick answer to your question, they might start to feel like they aren't as smart as you, and that feeling can cause them to just pull back from the conversation altogether.
Barrier number 3 is what we'll call the threat of social insight. This is all about having this almost advanced ability to spot hidden motives, to understand the complicated reasons people do the things they do, even when it's not obvious to anybody else. This is directly related to a core concept in psychology called theory of mind. Now, having a strong theory of mind is actually a form of high emotional intelligence, but it can make people feel really exposed around you, a little uneasy, almost like you're reading them, and that makes it hard for them to just relax and be themselves. Okay, next up is barrier number 4, defensive self-reliance. A lot of highly intelligent people are just naturally very intrinsically motivated. You prefer to work alone, and you don't really need a pat on the back from someone else to feel good about your work. But it's really important to draw a line between healthy independence and what psychologists call defensive self-reliance. This is something that's often learned really early in life, where you just get used to figuring things out all on your own. But that strength can accidentally send a signal to other people that you don't need them, and that can make it a lot tougher to form those close, connected bonds. And that brings us to our final barrier, number 5, the intimidation of clarity. Because your thoughts are likely very organized, you tend to speak with a whole lot of precision. You choose your words carefully because you want to leave very little room for any misunderstanding. The thing is, even when you think you're just talking normally, that crystal clarity can make other people feel self-conscious. It triggers this psychological thing called social comparison. Your presence, just the way you communicate, can shine a spotlight on what they see as their own gaps in knowledge. It makes them feel like they're constantly being measured against you. So wow, after going through all 5 of those barriers, you might be thinking, great, so am I just doomed to feel disconnected? Absolutely not. And that brings us to the most important part of this whole thing, the solution. It's all about learning to turn your powerful insight into a tool for real connection. So what is it?
What's the key to actually bridging that gap that your own intelligence sometimes creates?
Here it is, the central takeaway. The solution is not to dim your own light. Never that. It's to combine your intelligence with empathy. It's about having the patience and the genuine understanding that other people just process the world differently, and that's okay.
And that leads us to this final piece of advice. You have an incredible gift. The goal is to consciously use your mind to understand others, to meet them where they are, and to use that amazing brain of yours to bridge the gap, rather than widen it.
So as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Which of these 5 barriers, which one do you recognize the most in your own life? Because just understanding your own patterns, that's the very first step toward turning that brilliant mind into your greatest tool for connection.